Now, if you missed it, unlikely, I know, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge had a baby this week. 6-day-old Prince George of Cambridge stole the news headlines in the UK and the world over. Analysts are already speculating about whether the young prince, who's third in line to the throne, will ever become King George VII. An alternative analysis now of King George's past and future. We asked the composer and lyricist known for his comedic musical creations, Alexander Bermange, to write a song for weekend listeners. Have a listen to it. It's called The Seven Georges.
1714 saw Britain crown George I, a German whose English was simply the worst. He had 3 kids with his mistress, though none with his wife, who he kept locked in a castle for most of her life. In 1727, George II was crowned, a German whose temper was all too renowned. He led his troops into battle, the last king who would. His mistresses were many, and his manners far from good. From 1760, George III, still at an age so tender, lost the American colonies we had. Though thanks to him, at Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender. Napoleon just went home, but George went mad. From 1820, George IV proved larger than life. Extravagant, flamboyant, at war with his wife. Kept drinking and eating and breeding until he ended up obese and derided and ill. In 1910 came George V, who had the House of Windsor named, his older brother having just dropped dead. He was diligent and dutiful, but should have been ashamed, 'cause his brother's fiancée he duly wed. Instead, in 1936 came George VI suddenly, his brother having quit to wed a 2-time divorcee. Though suffering with stammering, he still proved his worth, and is also known as Albert, Bertie, or Colin Firth. And sometime in the future, George VII will reign, when no sign of Liz, Charles, or Wills will remain. What a formidable fate he has got. For now, though, let's leave him to drool in his cot.
Alexander Bermange with a special song for weekend listeners. If you enjoyed it, if you're in London tonight, you can see Alexander performing more of his comic songs at the St James Theatre. Now, Lindsay, you're not keen on this subject of the royal baby born this week, I realise, but you did enjoy that. You can't tell me you didn't. You were smiling and laughing away.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very witty.
The speech might have been enough to satisfy the so-called Eurosceptics within his own Conservative Party who are keen to leave the EU, but it didn't go down quite so well in parts of continental Europe or with members of the opposition in Britain. For another take on the speech and a bit of speculation on how our neighbours and allies France and Germany might react in private, we turned to London West End songwriter Alexander Bermange, and he came up with this.
Vote on talent shows and song contests and jungle trials too. Now Dave is giving us a say in if we stay in the EU. In dear old France they all went, oh la la, and once the smoke cleared, said, you fools. They had some rant about football and rugby. We should have known in France they had pools. They said, Europe's not done à la carte. It comes with frogs' legs and snails for a start. They said, your companies will flee to us fearing the worst, and they must learn the language first. Germans yelled, Nein, ach du lieber Zeit! If our beer's not your cup of tea, we are in this boat together. That's rule 986B. Cherry picking deserves a kicking. You should be sticking with us, come what may. Proud and numerous, who said humorless? Let not a sausage ever come in our way. Miliband hated it, Mandelson slated it. God help Dave C. Blessed it's suicide. Clegg fears a new divide. So, noble Brits, when you decide, God help Dave C.
That was Alexander Bermange. Quentin Peele, this subject's your sort of thing. What do you make of that?
It's a wonderful take on it.
He could do the accents.
Yes, absolutely.
But most people, in fact, probably hide the gifts away and do their best to forget about them. But here in the studio, I've got someone who's determined to confront this demon head-on, Alexander Bermange. He's a songwriter who's worked on many Christmas pantomimes. He's given us all a Christmas gift of his own this year. He's written a song about awful Christmas presents.
There's so much joy in giving to one's friends and family. Last Christmas, here's what I gave mine and what they each gave me. I gave my father a cookbook. He gave me E. coli with the first dish he tried. I gave my mother a mobile. She gave me a call more than I could abide. I gave my sister a gastric band. She gave me a sizable piece of her mind. I gave my brother a lie detector. He gave me his word I'd done out of the kind. I gave my auntie some mittens. She gave me the finger and spared me no scorn. I gave my uncle a mower. He gave me a look that was truly forlorn. I gave my boss sexy underwear. She gave me the sack, got some new young recruit. I gave my wife a designer iron. She gave me no doubt that she'd give me the boot. Ungratefully they all guzzled from my overflowing cup. So this year, when it comes to giving, I have given up.
We're joined by our own friendly artiste, West End musician and composer of musicals, Alexander Bermange, who has written a song for Weekend on what the Olympics have meant for him. The title of the song, I believe, is a song that would be called Ive Loved the Olympics were it not for brand protection restrictions. Here it is.
I've loved the Olympics, how sad they weren't publicised more. I've been cheering for countries I've not even heard of before. Thanks to all of those seats never used, no heads could block anyone's view. For a bargain 9 billion, the Games made it clear they've 2 flags in Korea, and ex-Beatles can have off nights too. I've loved the Olympics, the opening's the best one there's been. Though I knew before Bond did, a great actor's often a queen. The sight of Tom Daley in trunks can do things that cannot be told. And as if by magic, G4S brilliantly got the army in free, and near protests turned bronze into gold. I've loved the Olympics, have the cat mug and mascot as proof. I felt so much safer with those missiles on top of my roof. I've learned that McDonald's and Coke are all that you need to run fast. Though next to no one got tickets, they were our games, and so I just hope you all know what we owe Co, and Co is just vast. But though we've been the host and have medals to boast, what I truly love most is they soon will be past.
Alexander Bermange, he's here with us. We listened to that with a few giggles, at least.
Good, that was the intent.
In the tradition of not taking Britishness too seriously, I suppose. Now, the past week has probably not been Rupert Murdoch's favourite. The mass communications tycoon was on the receiving end of some fairly tough questioning at the Leveson inquiry here in London, examining the conduct of the media in Britain. To mark events for us, composer and lyricist Alexander Bermange, whose music has been sung in the West End of London and whose new album of comic songs entitled Weird and Wonderful is just released on iTunes, has come up with a brief new work entitled Murdoch the Musical.
Who has the whole world's media bearing his name? Who has unrivaled power, fortune and fame? If all his staff hack phones, who isn't to blame? It's Murdoch. Murdoch. Whose paper did our greatest stars come to hate? Who's racked with guilt he closed it down years too late? Who gets his shaving foam served up on a plate? It's Murdoch. Murdoch. Who made Brown see red, got Gordon Taylor upset, and gave Hugh Grant cause to grumble. True, Max Mosley hasn't joined his fan club as yet, and he's not that hot, but boy is he humble. Who've all prime ministers sought as a supporter, who claims to've trusted lawyers more than he oughta, who for a bodyguard just uses his door. Oh, apparently that's his wife. It's Murdoch. Murdoch. And now this icon's come and gone. Who'll take the stage? The hunt is on. So long to famous, flawless, blameless Murdoch. Murdoch. Murdoch.
Murdoch the Musical, Alexander Bermange is here. You don't like him very much, do you?
But what are the alternatives to our existing system of voting? A question for Alexander Bermange.
There are so many voting systems that can baffle and confuse. So here's a summary of the basic terms that you may wish to use. Approval voting, AMS, Saint Lag, elimination, majoritarian, proportional representation, plurality, exhaustive ballot, apparentement, Condorcet winner, Andre system, modified de Hont, mixed member proportion, monatomic panachage, cumulative, second ballot, highest average, threshold, largest remainder, absolute majority, hair quota, gerrymandering, preferential STV, Drew quota, AV plus, exclusion, party list, first past the post, cube law, and any others I have missed.
For a final word, here's composer Alexander Bermange, who wonders if rather than Pooh Bah, Lord Mandelson is in fact the very model of a modern politician.
I am
am the very model of a modern politician. I've survived many a scandal and held many a position. I am quick to cause controversy and media attention through my shop returns to government or questions of my pension. Although a certain loan may have evaded declaration, and though some alleged I influenced a passport application, I've still touched the lives and won the hearts of everyone who knows me, bar environmental protesters and Nicolas Sarkozy. I'm a baron and a peer and an example to the nation, and a master of the art of handing in a resignation. I will not admit to wrongdoing or show the least contrition. Oh, I am the very model of a modern politician. I am the very model of a modern politician. I can never answer questions straight or praise the opposition. I'll find explanations and excuses for all my offences, like the £3 lavished on my home and claim back on expenses. I've perfected ways of brushing off the outrage and derision when it's claimed a private meeting has affected a decision. And no matter if it seems that I'm not on the side I used to be, I'll switch support from Blair to Brown, now Gordon's of more use to me. And bouncing back from blunders, I am practically unbeatable. They've called me Mandy, Prince of Darkness, more that's unrepeatable. I often gain a meaningless new title or position. Oh, I am the very model of a modern politician.
Now, you can't accuse Al Gore of failing to get his message heard. His film, An Inconvenient Truth, was widely seen around the world, and there was a best-selling book too. But now, the ultimate accolade, La Scala in Milan, has commissioned An Inconvenient Truth, the opera. They'll be staging it in 2011, but we couldn't wait that long.
I'd always dreamed that I'd sing at La Scala. I'd waited years to audition, but they couldn't have offered me something better than this trash by some brash politician. We know what God thinks of the change in the climate, so why must he put it to music and rhyme it? So I have to stand there and croon an inconvenient tune. There are worthier works that deserve to be seen and more opulent operas to go to than the ones where the cast only ever wear green and drop dead one by one of CO2. No writer's more artful, no art could be blander, no work more improper than this propaganda. The critics are sure to lampoon each inconvenient tune. On what beautiful sets I thought I'd be performing, not chimneys or smoky and grotty, and arias about how to reduce global warming would have surely appalled Pavarotti. At merely the prospect I break down and cry. I'd rather sing Wagner's Ring every day till I die, or the run won't be over too soon. Oh, let it be past. Oh, bring on the last inconvenient tune.
Our thanks to Susanna Clark and Alexander Bermange. We close with the low pressure and the high notes of the weather from the team that brought you An Inconvenient Truth, the opera.
You'll be seeing cloud and rain in the Midlands and East, though it's drier in the west and south at least. But even there, in the coming hours, it will be raining scattered showers.
Thanks very much to Susanna Clark and Alexander Bermange.
Inspired by the great Fiddler's Dram hit, Didn't We Have a Lovely Time the Day We Went to Bangor, but carefully managing not to infringe their copyright, we asked our resident composer Alexander Bermange to sum up the febrile atmosphere this week surrounding the Crewe and Nantwich by-election.
We'll have a lovely time when we go to Crewe and Nantwich. Gwyneth Dunwoody might still have done good, even though her seat now risks defeat. Tamsin, her daughter's in need of supporters if she's to inherit the crown. But who is to say if she'll go all the way or just go down? Won't it be ace if Brown shows his face for a day in Crewe and Nantwich? Long as nobody there mentions London's new mayor or the local elections, or worse, Sherry Blair. He wouldn't say if he'd come for the day and show off that famous frown. Has he taken fright? Labour might lose the fight and just go down. Won't our spirits be high seeing MPs pop by for a day in Crewe and Nantwich? All just purporting to be there supporting, but quickly resorting to nights of cavorting. Will Timpson the Tory be granted the glory, the love and the renown? Or will Tamsin see off the attack of the Toff? Watch him just go down. When the fight is finally through, will the hue of Crewe turn blue? Or just go brown?
And excitingly, if you wish to download that to your iPod, you can. Just go to the BH website. You're listening to BH. The time is 9:30.
And BH goes in search of an EU anthem that pleases all and offends no one.
Let's sing a European anthem. It's sure to hit the mark. If it steers clear of the CAP, the flag, the euro and Iraq.
Now, before we go, the F word and the A word used together quite deliberately, and all blamed even on the EU. Flag and anthem are left out of the Reform Treaty, and into this vacuum steps songmeister Alexander Bermange asking, if we can't have an anthem, could Europe still be united in ode, yodel or Macarena?
Sing a European anthem that every state will like, with no jokes to faze the Germans and no jibes to send the French on strike. Bagpipes, accordions and castanets will ring out loud and clear. We'll hear the Union in unison, see discord disappear. Let's sing a European anthem in a style that will enthrall, like a tango, polka, march and jig, all thrown together, waltz and all. Let's have a line in every language, so to sing it will be fun. Just take every Eurovision classic and roll them into one. Let's sing a European anthem. It's sure to score 0 points.
I've been looking at the front pages, and naturally one story dominates this morning. There are a few headlines for you. Brown bottles it, says the Mail on Sunday. Crisis for Brown, says the Observer. Why I put off an early election, in the Sunday Telegraph. You get the idea. Rather than read out any more, here's a musical take on it all from BH songmeister Alexander Bermange.
Two mighty politicians put shows on by the sea. We heard their spin, both said they'd win, but an autumn poll is not to be. Cameron looked dashing, called out for the date. Brown took a bashing and now wants to wait. Brown has moved backward, Cameron is knackered. Brown's called the whole thing off. Cameron spoke grandly, showed he's fit for leading. Brown acted blandly, his lead is receding. Cameron's relaxing, for Brown is more taxing. He's called the whole thing off. The
Poll said we're in for a nail-biting fight. Cameron said he could still win it outright. Brown's aide said an autumn election's in sight. Yet Brown said, no it isn't. Cameron star's rising, but Brown's looking blue. Yet we need advising on just who is who. Labour and Tory, the same boring story. Whether the Scot or the Toff. Was Brown worried he'd be throttled? Well, they say he's gone and bottled, 'cause he's called the whole thing off. Thank God.
Thank you, Alexander. We'll get some comment, not on the song, I hope, but on the decision from the Shadow Chancellor George Osborne and the Local Government and Community Secretary Hazel Blears, who both join us now.
Pluto has been emasculated, stripped 3 days ago of its status as a planet and redefined by astronomers as a dwarf planet. Gustav Holst, of course, composed his planet suite before Pluto came to dim light and refused, interestingly, to add to the work. There has been a Pluto composed for the Halle Orchestra, but we felt that a new work was required, marking Pluto's reduced status and the problems that other small objects have had this week. Come in, Alexander Bermange.
If you have seen your fortunes fall, or felt your spirits rise, it isn't down to chance at all. It's merely down to size. Pluto has no rings and barely a moon. Holst never bothered to write it a tune. Won't be classed as a planet at all very soon. And it's small. Tom Hanks and Brad Pitt are hailed and admired, while dear old Tom Cruise is going nuts and being fired. Now his Mission Impossible's just to be hired, 'cause he's small, rich but small. Desktops and mainframes have always worked well, but the virtues of laptops are harder to tell, 'cause they're all now exploding like bats out of Dell. And they're... guess what? But all this small talk has a comforting end. In the post office, smallness is your new best friend. For a large letter now costs a vast sum to send. But that's all. That's in favour of small.
Alexander Bermange.
A little earlier, we asked our paper reviewers to choose which anthem they wanted the weather to be sung to, and Italy was the winner, and here it is, courtesy of Alexander S. Bermange.
In England there'll be drizzly rain that dampens moods for several hours, but do not fear, the sun will appear, though sadly so will scattered showers, and Wales will be mainly dry, with clouds along the way, while in Scotland wind and patchy rain, just past to spoil cup final day.
And on he goes with the rest of the weather. It's approaching 5 to 10. Each week, BH sends thousands of spam emails. Our newsletter clogs the computers of warm-hearted people who sign up simply hoping for the best from a Sunday morning. One of them is Peter Gray, who wrote back to us in a highly political week after all, asking, "What's happened to your resident songwriter?" Thank you, Peter. Here's your answer.
Oh, what a fuss, and what a kerfuffle. Poor Tony stirred up with one little reshuffle. People say that it's confusing. What are they on about? I disagree. It's clear to see who's in and who is out. Alistair Darling's given up his post to Douglas Alexander, who hands over to Jeff Hoon, who's been succeeded by Jack Straw, who is replaced by Margaret Beckett, whose job goes to David Miliband, though if he'll get the caravan as well remains unsure. John Prescott's past affairs are handed over to Ruth Kelly, which makes room for Alan Johnson to enjoy a change of post. Stephen Timms fills the position of Des Brown, who's taken over from John Reid, who has replaced Charles Clarke, who's come off worse than most. Blair and Hewitt, Brown and Hutton, Jowell, Ben and Hayne haven't shifted in this shuffle. In their old jobs they remain.
If for any reason you're confused by what you hear, don't blame Blair, hang on in there, I'll make it twice as clear. Alistair Darling's given up his post to Douglas Alexander, who hands over to Jeff Hoon, who's been succeeded by Jack Straw, who's replaced by Margaret Beckett, whose job goes to David Miliband, though if he'll get the caravan as well remains unsure. John Prescott's past affairs are handed over to Ruth Kelly, which makes room for Alan Johnson to enjoy a change of post. Stephen Timms fills the position of Des Brown, who's taken over from John Reid, who has replaced Charles Fogg, who's come off worse than most. Blair and Hewitt Brown and Hutton, Jowell, Ben and Hayne haven't shifted in this shuffle, in their old jobs they remain.
Alexander Bermange. BH today leaps into the world of podcasting, several years behind thousands of others. The technology is the anytime, any place, anywhere version of radio and claims to bring perestroika through pod. Our own efforts pitch us directly against the diaries of teenage girls with hormone issues in full audio, and even TV programmes offering a service without pictures. Despite this brutal competition, the new technology raises real questions for anyone who loves radio. And if you miss those questions now, you can hear them all asked again till the batteries die and the world once again falls silent. We're so excited about the new BH podcast, we can't help but burst into song.
Walkmans and wirelesses, tape decks and trannies are okay for hams and collectors and grannies, and DAB's only a bit less old hat for iPods and nanos, and now where it's at. If you thought that pods were merely for peas, get into the 21st century, please. For as of today, you can podcast this show. So what if TalkSport did this ages ago? Our nation can have Sunday mornings kept free for hangover treatment or GMTV. And any day, any time, any place, anybody can whip out their widget and listen to Paddy. Now all through the week you can hear us for free in your office, your shed or your WC, although all the news will no longer be new. And if you phone in, don't expect to get through, but raise up your iPods, don't flinch and don't falter. Let's all bow down at technology's altar. Move with us into this wondrous new age at bbc.co.uk/BH. That's bbc.co.uk/BH.
With thanks to our resident composer, Alexander Bermange. The address again, for anyone who can't bear to be separated from BH, bbc.co.uk/BH. Baroness Thatcher has a musical, but bizarrely Chancellor Brown has no song. All the talk of an image makeover for Gordon Brown has been just that, talk. Labour today ponders its future in Blackpool and must wonder if it can any longer ignore a strategy of tinkling the ivories. The British love a song, so could this be the secret weapon to win the heart of the electorate?
They say that I'm boring, and I'm worried that's true, but they'll soon be adoring, for I know what to do. Prudently Brown, go and dust yourself down. You must swap your statistics for style. Don't talk of stability, show vulnerability. Forget economics, just smile. Cast off all pretensions, no mentions of pensions. Beware what you're daring to wear. If you fail to impress, you risk being a lesser success as successor to Blair. Act prudently Brown, lose that world-weary frown. Some colour is all they expect. Gordon Bronze, Gordon Ochre sound less mediocre. Gordon Puce would produce the effect. This talk never-ending of lending and spending is sending their heads in a spin. If you cut this baloney and show you're no phony, old crony of Tony, you'll win. Act prudently Brown, image can't let you down, so adopt a more friendly facade. When the money talks muddly, be warm and be cuddly, keep playing the family card. With each baby conceived, more new votes are received that assure you political glories.
then the world is your slave. You can have all you crave, and you'll stave off poor Dave and his Tories.
This week, Broadcasting House heads for the coast. We're going to be in Portsmouth at the Royal Naval Club and Royal Albert Yacht Club, where we're going to be keeping a close eye on the launch of Sail 8. We'll also ask if guilt and the moral obligation of a colonial past fuel a desire to help Africa now. Dominic Arkwright is in Kenya investigating the link between poverty and corruption. Michael Portillo joins us to review the papers, along with the actor Pete Postlethwaite, who will be in Edinburgh ahead of the G8 summit. We have a special sea shanty composed for Broadcasting House, and we may indulge in some grunting of our own. Broadcasting House, this morning at 9.
Let's sing a shanty of our love for a boat. We've a drunken old Scot who can just hold a note. We've a chorus of sailors who are tone deaf but loud, and a jolly refrain that would have made Shakespeare proud. With a bing bow wow dilly down down early in the morning. Let's sing a shanty where all can join in, with a long-winded saga of boats, girls and gin. We'll pad out the verses with senseless repeats, and we'll pad out the verses with senseless repeats. With a bing bow wow dilly down down way do me hammer early in the morning. Sing a shanty if we've got the breath that makes a piffling old sailing trip sound like Macbeth. We'll start it with oomph, but by that welcome last chord, we'll know the true meaning of man overboard. With a bing bow wow dilly down down way do me hammer ho yes ho folly rolly early in the morning.
That was the Broadcasting House sea shanty from our composer Alexander S. Bermange, who you will remember is very big in Germany. Personally, I felt like I was there in Hyde Park during that. It's 14 minutes past 9 now, and this is a tricky junction between stories, so please do just make the leap with us. You may have heard a lot about Europe this week, but I bet you haven't heard this.
Sing a song for the Constitution, but not if you're from France. They crushed it with the zeal that they showed at the Bastille. It never stood a chance. The politicians loved the Constitution, but the same people were averse. So it's thumbs up to them, but au revoir to their PM, who found that things could not get any worse. Sing a song for the Constitution, but not if you are Dutch. The proposal was panned, it fell as flat as the land. They'd never cared for it that much. The politicians loved the Constitution, they felt sure that it would please. But those confident asses found convincing the masses even harder than their cheese. Sing a song for the Constitution, but has it met its Waterloo? You Brits could soon wind up making your mind up. Its fate could be up to you. Will you save your kisses for the Constitution, or do as the French and Dutch have done? If the UK decision's like our songs at Eurovision, we'll see the poor old Constitution end up with a big nul point.
See what I mean? That was the Broadcasting House Song for Europe, recorded in Frankfurt by our composer-in-residence, Alexander S. Bermange, and more of his work is available on CD. In amongst all the fuss about why France or the Netherlands won't sign up for the Constitution, there is another issue that's going to come to a head this week. Cold, isn't it? Perfect weather for hunkering down with a listings guide and planning super nights out for when the weather clears. Broadcasting House has been doing exactly this in between making snowmen, which look like the new Radio 4 controller Mark Damaser, and we've discovered a bit of a theme in the stage world for the coming year. That theme is real-life events being set to music. We've had Jerry Springer the Opera, Prepare Yourself for Diana the Ballet, Battersea Arts Council put on a performance of Newsnight the Opera, subtitled Did You Overrule Him? And there really is going to be a production of David Blunkett the Musical, which promises to embrace the styles of rap, R&B and jazz in its celebration of the turbulent life of the former Home Secretary. So you can see this one coming a mile off, can't you? Here is Broadcasting House, The Musical, written by Alexander S. Bermange, who is one of the composers behind Stalin the Musical, and like David Hasselhoff, he's a musical talent who's enormous in Germany. Very good morning, Alexander. Do you want to take it away?
Broadcasting House, the show politicians all fear. Hope the shambles last week didn't switch your support to Radio 2 or even Talk Sport. If you've come for today, you'd best go away. Still, we've got the creme de la creme. Even though Eddie Mair has vacated the chair to wage war with MPs on PM. Young Fee is our lassie, discerning yet sassy. She loves getting emails and post. So send a suggestion or wry contribution, but don't dare to question her pronunciation. She is the way to kickstart your day if Frost or the church don't appeal. Though some say our show can't live up to its past, it must beat a repeat of the shipping forecast. We don't use plebs, we've got celebs queuing up to do paper reviews. Through the hundreds of sections they'll carefully look, as long as they're given a plug for their book. We take the blues out of the news, and yet if we speak from the heart, we've no reason or rhyme, no, we're just filling time while you wait for the Archers to start.
Alexander, that was remarkable. You can hear more of Alexander's work on Weird and Wonderful, which is a new CD of comic songs celebrating weirdos and weirdness. I imagine that that was just like the Cambridge Footlights, but sadly we didn't have that at the University of Kent, so I wouldn't really know. It's just gone 9:30. Now with the summary of the news, here's Vaughan Savage. Right, now no self-respecting BBC News programme has been transmitted this week without throwing over to some poor correspondent stuck in a snowdrift telling you that it's very cold outside. We don't just report the news, you know, we feel it. We didn't want to let the side down at Broadcasting House, what with the cuts and all. I've been volunteered for the job. So, Alexander is going to keep you amused whilst I get outside. I'll talk to you in a little bit, and Alexander, play quite slowly. Thank you.
Fee's been untied, she's strutting outside, where some of us fear she'll get lost. Still her outside broadcast of the weather forecast gives new meaning to breakfast with frost.